But I fell into his hands because he said if I fall into anybody out here that didn't know what this was, they would have hooked me up the wrong way. That would have been it. And then
Welcome, Chris. Hey, welcome. Hey, I really want to thank you for being here today. You know what? I met Chris. I remember the kind of the first time we were having this conversation, like past high school, and I knew Chris in high school. He was a couple of years older than me, but I remember it was just this. I mean, really, this past summer, and I get a call. I don't know if he called me or I called him, but we had
I
started.
called you. I called you.
Okay, you called me,
Yeah. I called
and
you.
I remember chit-chatting about, we started talking about some development and growth. It was the opportunity to do a youth program, a leadership program, and I've been studying, really personal development and really the science of it, and kind of exploring this deep issues of how it's related to quantum mechanics, and just this
Right.
really deep stuff, that if you're
Right.
talking at that level, somebody has kind of went down that rabbit hole. and
Yeah.
and here Chris, I'm not used to having too many other natives being able to talk at that level, and here Chris is, he's just up with me in the conversation, and we go deep real quick, and I'm like, oh man, this guy
Yeah.
he's done some work. I was like, and so I've seen Chris in the community, and really with his program Studio 13
13-7.
Studio 13-7
Yeah.
has really kind of been inspirational to be able to get people moving, and really inspire natives to move and use their body and stuff. So me and my wife have been following along, and I'm just proud of the work that he's been doing. But I know that it was not always like that. I know that where he's been, where I've been, where many people have been, it wasn't always like that. And so, the confidence, the character he may exude right now, it was not always like that. So, Chris, welcome to today, and I just want you to quickly introduce yourself, and take us back to where you started, and where you've come, how you've grown beyond the circumstances of that old Chris.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Yeah. So my name's Chris Hawk. So the life story here basically goes back to I guess before high school, junior high, whatnot. I can take you guys all the way back to um, growing up. It wasn't something that I think a lot of us here on the reservation may have gone through similar situations. Due to there's you could just say I've been through quite a few things. Like you said, this new me right now had to be kind of um, put through the test, put through the ringer. A lot of hardship, you could say. A lot of hardship, meaning domestic violence. A lot of been through that.
What
Which
does it mean? What does it mean to be through that? I
what
mean, is
does
it
it
like
mean?
like feeling scared? Is it like
Yeah,
just seeing
yeah, pretty
crazy?
much feeling scared at one point in my life. Um, I was very young. I was the oldest of well, I'm the oldest of three younger brothers. And being the oldest, you see a lot more than the younger ones, the younger generation, one of my younger siblings. But growing up, seeing things that any 8, 9 year old shouldn't see, I seen. But a lot of it, a part of it was, I think I blamed myself. I thought at one time because I told on some, I should have said something about a situation that I said, and then that blew up a whole. Well, I was just young. I didn't know. I was just speaking. You know how kids are. And then lo and behold, I I told on one of the parents, and then that started out a whole situation there that wasn't really pretty. And I remember I blamed myself. I was scared. There was fear. I blamed myself for the situation, and it's pretty much a prime example of DV. We
Yeah.
see a lot of
I
that
mean,
here on the reservation.
do you remember, like, just a particular night, just to really kind of give us details, because I think you're tapping into something that I think a lot of people experience, but it's one of those things that get pushed underneath the carpet. And
Yeah.
if you're willing to kind of share, is there like one of those experiences that kind of come to mind when that you can describe for us, that you maybe help somebody understand what just the dynamics of a situation like that?
Um, well, Mike, this is the first time actually really putting it out there, and I cannot stop to think about my mother, how strong she is for going through all that and raising not just two, three boys all together in the beginning with my father, which that didn't work out for that relationship, and we got put through the ringer for that, me and my brothers. But she remarried, and then we gained another brother, so I have another younger brother. But through the first relationship, you know, it was quite it was really interesting because there was a lot of anger and temperament. I think that built up within us. Well, for me, I can't talk for my brothers personally because we all been through different phases. Me, there was a lot of anger, real fear at first because you're so young. Nobody should be young seeing their mom beat up. You know,
So you're
or
talking about an abusive father?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I mean, well, yeah. So when you grew up in those dynamics, like you said, it gets real complex real quick. But the understanding as a youth, as a younger youth, you don't really understand them, and then you go through life feeling anger, temperament, even fear a lot, and that's a struggle that's kind of um, that I guess I've been running from since the beginning. Um, and I think I've been running ever since until recently. Because I didn't know what these things were, these feelings were, and even to the point where I was confused because there was in relationships, you're like you hate your dad at one point, and because of what he done to your mother, and you grew up through junior high, you know, it's okay here and there, but things pop off again, in the DV round. And then you get to high school, and then things are okay, and then stuff start popping off again, and it's just kind of been built up. Then you start, getting to teenage life, and for me, I started drinking. I turned to drinking. Um, I'm just saying. I think right now, high school is really hit, because that's the first time I ever fought my father in high school, and I was buzzed too. At one of them, I was buzzed. I was not in my right mind, and I got caught drinking at school, and I think I threw everything back at him, and I think he finally came out. And that's the first time that I fought my father, and it was rough, and then
So
and
going
then I
through
think.
that experience of
Mhm.
being you in this moment in your life is seeing your father beat up your mom, where there was probably blood, bruises,
Mhm. Mhm.
and also having a lot of this anger taken out on you being hit as well,
Mhm.
and and really just building up this anger towards your father, and
Yeah.
feeling that you're the one to blame because you feel it's your responsibility to say something, and just kind of walking with that around in high school, and letting it come out. You're coping with all this anger, this stuff. I mean, is counseling in your realm help? Are you getting any of that, or is it just feel, or is it pretty much just you kind of handling the situation the best way you know how, and kind of drinking and stuff?
Well, yeah. Again, that's deeply rooted, since I remember we used to stay at Keams Canyon at those there's that old IHS housing complex. That's where we used to stay. When I was much, much younger then. Like I said, it had to be like 7, 8, 9. And then when that's where it all started. It started, I could still remember, that day, when there was a really bad, situation, or you could say an experience, I think that's where everything started, because, believe me, throughout ever since then, and then here and throughout, junior high, like I said, through high school, there was really no counseling whatsoever, and then I always think about that right now when I think about other kids. I'm like, man, it seems like we need that out here, because I feel that there are similar situations going on, probably even worse than the experiences, or that have gone through the experiences I have, maybe similar. But I think it the counseling, Mike, didn't even start till after high school. Again, my parents finally split, like, because I was back and forth, I hated my dad. Then I was upset with my mom because she kept taking him back. And I was just confused at time, and it was just a lot of hurt, and a lot of I guess a bad relationship that my mom was in, and then kind of just tears you apart inside, and you're confused because he's leaving, and he left. I think I was in junior high, maybe even younger, maybe 5th grade first. I still remember that day. And then he wanted to take me. I remember that, but that didn't happen, And then I remember I was scared. He asked, he wanted to go. I said no. Wanted to stay. Then when he's leaving, I remember as a kid. Then when he's leaving, then I was crying after his plane, So I was back and forth there. And he left, and then after, like, I don't know if it was a year or two. I can't get but I understand not the detail parts. My mom would probably know all that. But I do understand the feelings that were felt through it, and I could see the visual right now, because when he left, it felt like I was torn apart. Then he came back. Then it's just like, okay, everything's good again. And then something happens again. So it was just like a roller coaster ride of emotions and whatnot. That not just me, but my brother, my second oldest brother, that went through all this too. And it was just a roller coaster ride. But I did not get counseling, because the funny thing is, they broke up after high school. After I graduated, I was in Phoenix. I'm going to Glendale Community College, trying to start something for myself. And little did I know that this baggage was still lingering, and on top of that, you think, excuse me, I think everything's going good. And I'm like, hey, I think they're going to be all right. Because it felt like I did have some support after you kind of think you forgive or whatnot. And then you get a phone call out of nowhere, and you're older now, you finish high school, you're older, but you're still kind of hurt, because I'm not going to lie about that. Graduating, I was still confused about a lot of stuff and where to place it, because I didn't really get too much, what do you call that, fatherly guidance, I believe, not saying that he wasn't a bad father. I mean, there are times that, there's a lot of good stuff, memories with him and stuff. It's just, I think, but I'll get to the part where, where I understood forgiveness here shortly.
And I mean, and what was you made it through high school. You still had this roller coaster of emotions that you've been experiencing with your father going, missing him, but then wanting him back at the same time. And then, being upset with your mom and your dad at the same time. And, you're moving through high school and made it through high school. I mean, what is Chris like? What are you like? Are you, teetering, tottering with life risking decisions? Are you, playing, you know, who are you during that time?
During that time, I was a live wire during that time. I was teeter-tottering. I was taking a lot of risks. You know, I was into I was going to school, but little did I know there was still a lot of I guess negative um, what do you call that? You know, energy around me and in my thoughts. Um, Me at that time, I was I was I was still lost. I was lost. You know, I was trying hard to, I guess, break through all that frequency and whatnot, but I was lost because you know I didn't take school serious whatsoever. I was just there, you know. It just felt right, you know. I mean, you know, you get too much guidance, just like you know, okay, I'm here. But you know, I drank a lot, and I even this started in high school. Something I didn't mention too. You know, I started there was something in high school where it pushed me past just at the end of high school. Well, I guess like you could say sophomore year, freshman. I'm gonna jump back just really quick. Freshman and sophomore year, I got into bootlegging. You know, bootlegging. You know, already. You know, in high school and just ending up, you know, just hanging out with older guys like at our villages and it felt good, you know, like that. Hey, there's feels like you had an older brother or something, and they were cool, you know, they accepted you and all that. So and then sell a few bottles, you know, and then you know at the same time you're sipping on that same bottle too, not realizing hey like you're at that time I didn't know I was numbing the pain I had. But it just felt right, felt good at the time because I felt like I had comfort there, you know, not realizing what I was hurting and who I was hurting. So, and that led up to then I kind of kept that path all the way up into like what you said, you know, where was I at after high school? I was trying to break that cycle within those years, those years there where I was trying to make a buck, you know, not knowing how incredible and valid that school could be. You know, I was just using it as I guess to escape, you know, to get out of the res, but not really utilizing that education tool. You know, not knowing that it was right there in front of me, but then I was still messing around with it, drinking, and then it led to drugs. It led to drugs. You know, and there was a time where I did experience cocaine, and me and a friend of mine got into cocaine, and then we crossed paths with people. You know, on I just call it the dark side. You know, you cross paths with people like that during parties or whatnot, and then they give you the idea of, hey man, you guys should sell this stuff. So I not knowing, you know, you being young, you know, and being kind of lost, and you're just trying to find your way. And at that moment, my father wasn't there, too. So it's hard to make sense when you really think about it. But but story short, you know, I started drug dealing as well, and it went from the bootlegging to drug dealing, you know, cocaine or the white or whatever you want to call it. And then actually doing it myself because at one point in my life I could have probably died from that because I got so caught up and hooked on it in Phoenix when I was down there.
I mean, and what's that like to be hooked?
Be hooked. Well, just imagine you can be hooked on that thing so quick because just imagine where school doesn't even matter no more. Family doesn't really matter no more. Just a feeling. I remember sitting there in my room with a rock, you know, and trying not to, you know, like, I remember sitting in my room just trying not to, like, think about it, and battling with my own mindset back then because I remember these cocaine stuff, you know, they come in, it's like literally a rock. And I actually almost done that whole rock myself in this like scraping. I remember lining it up, and not, and then that's all that mattered to me at that moment. And then fortunately, it ran out. And the addiction is you want more, right? I think everybody knows, most people know that have been hooked. I mean, that's one of the hardest battles a human can go through, because literally I was, constantly looking for it.
And who are you at this time? Are you someone who just gets along with everybody? I mean, are you a mad type of drunk, or mad type of
Yes,
addict? Or how are you? Are you just
well, yeah, man. You see, I was in two worlds, man. I was like, I was trying to, I was trying to be creative. I was trying to create like three worlds. I was trying to create this world where I was, schoolboy, trying to get this thing done, and then cross country, GCC. I was even in that, and then come home and you just take care of your weenie stuff. So there's all these things you're trying to be, but low key, you're trying to hide all that stuff. You're trying to hide all that, the addiction, the alcohol abuse, even the drug dealing and all that. But I got along. I was kind of like, yeah, let's get this thing going. Let's do it. Like in any situation. If it was a party, I'd be like, shit, let's do it. I would be the one kind of pushing it to make it happen. Or if it was like drug dealing, shit, I'll do it. Let's do this. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So I had that drive, the energy, but it was kind of focused in the wrong direction. So I was constantly like, you could say I kind of was the instigator. I was the party starter, or whatever you want to call it. I was just down. I was just down for whatever. But when all said and done, I remember, going to parties and saying, yeah, actually, it was fun. We had a blast, but in the end, man, you feel like you want to die, after that stuff. And you wonder why. But at that time, I was like, yes, I was kind of like, let's do it. I was kind of an instigator in some sort, in some way. But that's kind of how I roll. And then at the same time, you're trying to keep that, I guess, that charisma up, because I played basketball too, and then I played in a lot of tournaments back then. And that's when, after the tournaments, I remember that's when I used to get into those habits again too. After the basketball tournament, so I was leaving. I was okay, but low key, there was a lot of battles, a lot of addiction battles.
Gotcha. And what? I mean, is there that moment that you hit? Is there a moment that you get to that it's you said you already experienced some life or death events up to this moment, but I mean, is there the moment that really shakes you to, or is it a series, or is it insight, or is it a relationship? I mean, what you're in college right now, you're kind of playing in two worlds. People know you this way, but then they don't know what's hidden underneath.
Yeah, that's crazy. It hit, and I think I cut off on that where I was trying to get. But I'm glad I got this in, because this is this dirty stuff on me that I wish I could have. Well, I guess it's made me who I am today. But I'm glad I got this in. But what you see, what I was trying to get to, where it hit is, which I was really surprised how hard it hit, is when my mother and dad split during that time. Because again, I was like, things are going great. Maybe the past is just the past. They're actually doing okay, and because seeing my mom thinking that she was happy, but you see, I can't speak for it, because I don't know what she was going through. But then I get a call in Phoenix one time. That was just at the beginning of my schooling, where she's crying on the phone and saying, this is it. I think this is finally it. Your dad had another episode, and then the cops had to escort him out. And that was that. And then that part, I still remember I was working at the Glendale Community College at a photography. I think it was photography. That was like the aide there for one of these photography classes. I took a job there, but that's where I got the phone call because I remember it was night. It was one of those calm nights in Phoenix. It smelled real good. I remember that. And that was pretty much the day that it was for real, for real. Like, wow, she's actually leaving him. Then I'm like, I remember on the phone saying, why now? You could have done that long time ago. But at the same time, I was kind of feeling for my dad for this one. So see how confused that was? I had all I seen, but now I'm feeling for my dad. And then I'm like, so even at that age, I was buckled, man. I was like, and I remember just hanging up, and I can honestly say it hit me because I kind of broke down outside. I sat at one of those benches and just cried a little bit, and it hurt, and I didn't know it would hurt me like that. You know, I'm older. You know, I shouldn't be feeling like this, blah blah. But then it hurt, and that's how my father went on his journey. But he came down to Phoenix and stayed with me for a while before he moved back up to Washington State, and that's where he resides now ever since. But that's where it kind of hit. Then I'm like taking in my father, and he's like there, stay with me in my apartment, and like almost like taking care of him because he called me that next day and he was crying too. So both my parents were crying, and I remember I never heard my dad cry before ever until that day, ever. And then that's like another shock, like whoa. This guy that's thought, he was tough and everything, you look up to him, but at the same time you're pissed off because he's your father, he's like the strongest dude in the world to you, and then now he's crying to you. Then you try to figure it out. You don't get it till later on down the line, like now for me in my life right now, that's how you start figuring things out, So that's where it hit, Mike. I mean, that's kind of where I'm just putting it all out there, like you say.
And how did that separation, cause you to look at your life, right? If that's the moment that it hit, right? There's, after so long of this relationship that was up and down, finally you get to a point where it's like they've separated for good, and you're seeing different parts of both sides of your parents that you've not really seen. And I mean, what about that sparks you to say, what am I doing with my life? Or like, is this really the direction for me that I'm going in my life? Or, is that moment for you that kind of really, brings light that things need to change for you? Was that moment?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't because I didn't know how. You see, it got messy after that. It got messy. Because I was in a relationship, I think, back then too, and then I turned to more drinking. I drank a lot. More dealing, made a lot of money, tried pulling in, friends and my sibling, made a lot of money. And I pursued that life, tried it out, the drug dealing side, marijuana, cocaine, and I did all three. The bottles, the beer, duffel bags full of beer bottles. And it's like for me, Chris, at this time, I didn't realize the power I had, the connections, but it was filled with that hurt. But I just went for it like there was no tomorrow. And then I was not hurting myself, I was hurting my people because I was bringing out here. Not realizing, the pain that was behind that. You don't realize it till years down until you actually get better, realize it. But at that moment, it didn't even click until later. It caused me 2 relationships, you know, trying to be in a relationship while doing all these naughty things or these no good things, and it doesn't work, because, I was going down the wrong path really hard, really hard.
The path, not necessarily the wrong path, but the path that was leading you toward what? Death? Some misery?
Misery,
struggle?
death, yeah, struggle, misery, I guess, because again, um, I was geared up with all this, whatever this energy, but it seemed I couldn't find, the balance of peace, and like you have no, you see, we have dust, right? They're they're there, and it seemed that one time I was trying to go to them, but all they do is talk shit. So you try to stay clear of that, but you're taking it personal. But that's a whole nother realm within itself, because now way later, then you actually realize what they're trying to get across to you. But does it make sense? Because we're so hurt back then. And I feel that's what's happening now too, because our kids are more sensitive, and I can get them now when discipline is trying to happen, but then we're too hurt to take it on, or we get defensive. But I want to go far off track. That just led me to unnecessary things again, where that actually led me to lo and behold, I believe around, I'm trying to figure out when meth came on the reservation. I didn't know what that was. It was my younger sibling that introduced it to me. And then that's where it was just another outlet that I jumped on. And it was that outlet I didn't know nothing about. It was that outlet that led me to that moment, to where I did more than I shouldn't. And it led me into the hospital, almost dying. And I remember getting sent to, I was supposed to do a deposit because we have a family business. And I did it beforehand. And I remember I almost didn't make it home because my body was like breaking down or something, because I did too much. Because you can smoke that stuff. And then somebody told me you can sniff that stuff. And I went ahead and said, I'll try this, I'll sniff it. And I did. And then my body started shutting down, locking up. And it was like the worst feeling, anxiety. I don't know what the hell that probably was called, but it was pretty scary. I barely made it home. Got out of the truck, stumbled into the kitchen. I think my mom was there. She'd be like, I think I dropped to my knees or something. And she's like, what's wrong? I don't know what happened. And I didn't want to tell her either. I didn't want to tell her what I was. Then I finally told her, And then she got scared. And then somehow she got me into the truck. And then that's when she took me to the hospital. And then there was a guy there, a doctor there. He was a young guy too, but he came in. He was from Hawaii. And he said that stuff was big back in that area. And he said, it's new out here, he said at that time. But if you had any other doctor, you would have been dead, he told me, because I knew how to handle you. You were ODing, and then all your organs were shutting down. But he, again, guardian angel, I don't know. But I fell into his hands, because he said if I fall into anybody out here that didn't know what this was, they would have hooked me up the wrong way. That would have been it. And then I remember him drilling me, and like a Taha would, and I thanked him for that. He was kind of like a real bold doctor. And he's like, you got to knock that stuff off. This is no joke, what you're messing with. And ever since then, that's the doctor I listened to. And that was it, and that's the last time I touched that meth. I only touched it for a while. I played with it for a while, and that's the type of guy I was. I played with I do risks. I'm a risky kind of guy. By any means, I'll play with it until it, it's like, it's gambling. With at that time I gambled in life. I took a big risk, and to this day I can still feel that I have some of that taking risk. But that's where my first incident occurred. And I could just tell again, my mom saved my life, my mother, because she's the one that was there, the doctor too. And I was IV'd up, and they released me that next afternoon or something. And then I remember that night, it took me like 3 days to come off that. 3 days. And they were scared that it fucked up my mind too, because I was talking gibberish the next 2 days. But somehow I started coming back. That's how messed up it got me, and my brothers were scared. I know my youngest brother was the most scared, because in coming off stuff, you have these weird episodes. So I put, like I said, put my brother, he's seen things he should have seen that we went through. A lot of withdrawals. I think it was a withdrawal that I was coming off of. And then I guess I could even make sentences at one time. And then a few days later, I came out of it. I was good. And it was then, Mike, I hit like this real deep sorrow, maybe depression after that episode. And it felt like I had to leave this place. And where do I go? Of all I told you, the person, I hated growing up because of what he did to my mom. I ran away to him. And that landed me in Washington for 6 years. Tried to make a career there, but lo and behold, I was still hurt. And I did okay, but it was my first few years, and then the next half, the first 3, I guess, but the next half, I started going downhill with alcohol again. I got in a car wreck up there. I put me and my cousin from up there in danger. We got in a bad car accident. I don't know how we survived that. My cousin's up there from up north. They're trying to figure out how we both survived that crash. But we're both alive. Family was upset with me up there for a while because of that. But my cousin, we're still just fortunate that we came out of that alive, and we still talk about it. And hey, maybe there's a reason why we're alive. So that would be the second. And